Ever wondered what it takes to conquer the known world before your 33rd birthday? It sounds like the plot of an epic fantasy movie, but it was the real life of one man, Alexander the Great. Forget everything you think you know because we're about to dive deep into the story of the military genius who reshaped the course of history in just over a decade. Born in 356 BC in Pella, the capital of Macedon, Alexander was no ordinary prince. His father was King Philip II, a brilliant and ruthless military commander who had already transformed Macedon from a backwater kingdom into a dominant Greek power. His mother was Olympias, a fiery and ambitious princess from Epirus who claimed descent from the mythical hero Achilles. With a lineage like that, you could say greatness was in his blood. But it wasn't just genetics. Philip spared no expense on his son's education. When Alexander was just 13, Philip hired the most brilliant mind of the age to be his tutor, the philosopher Aristotle. For 3 years, Aristotle taught Alexander everything from politics and medicine to philosophy and ethics. He instilled in the young prince a deep love for knowledge and a fascination with different cultures, particularly the heroic tales of Homer's Iliad. It said Alexander slept with a copy of the Iliad under his pillow his entire life, aspiring to be a hero greater even than Achilles. Even as a teenager, Alexander's ambition and courage were legendary. The famous story of him taming the wild stallion Bucephalus is a perfect example. This horse was untamable, throwing off every rider who tried. But Alexander noticed something others had missed. The horse was afraid of its own shadow. By calmly turning the horse to face the sun, he was able to mount and ride him. This horse, Bucephalus, would carry him across battlefields all the way to India. This wasn't just about taming a horse. It was a sign of his incredible insight, patience, and ability to see solutions where others saw only problems. In 336 BC, tragedy struck. King Philip was assassinated, and at just 20 years old, Alexander ascended to the throne. The kingdoms Philip had conquered saw this as an opportunity to rebel. They thought a young, inexperienced king would be easy to overthrow. They were catastrophically wrong. In a whirlwind campaign, Alexander moved with lightning speed. He marched south, quelling rebellions in Greece. To make an example of those who defied him, he razed the city of Thebes to the ground, a brutal but effective message that echoed across the Greek world. With his home front secured, Alexander turned his eyes to the east, to his father's ultimate unfinished goal, the invasion of the mighty Persian Empire. The Persian Empire was the superpower of its day, stretching from modern-day Turkey to India. It was vast, wealthy, and commanded an army that vastly outnumbered Alexander's. To many, attacking it was suicide. But Alexander wasn't just a king, he was a master strategist. In 334 BC, he crossed the Hellespont into Asia Minor with an army of about 40,000 men. His first major test was the Battle of the Granicus River. The Persians held a strong defensive position on the opposite bank. Any conventional commander would have waited. Alexander, however, ordered an immediate, audacious cavalry charge, straight across the river and up the muddy banks. He led the charge himself, nearly losing his life in the process. The sheer shock and ferocity of the attack shattered the Persian lines, giving Alexander a decisive victory and control over all of Asia Minor. His journey continued south. Instead of marching directly into the heart of Persia, he methodically secured the coastal cities. This was a brilliant strategic move, as it cut off the powerful Persian navy from its ports, neutralizing their greatest advantage at sea. During the siege of Tyre, a city on an island fortress thought to be impregnable, Alexander did the unthinkable. He ordered his engineers to build a causeway, a massive land bridge nearly half a mile long, through the sea to the city walls. After 7 months of relentless effort, his army stormed the city. This feat of engineering and sheer determination left the world in awe. Next, Egypt. Unlike other conquerors, Alexander was welcomed not as an invader, but as a liberator from Persian rule. The Egyptians crowned him pharaoh and declared him a son of the god Amun. It was here, at the mouth of the Nile that he founded the most famous of the many cities that would bear his name, Alexandria. He envisioned it as a hub of culture, commerce, and learning, and it would soon become the intellectual capital of the ancient world. With the entire eastern Mediterranean under his control, the final showdown with the Persian king, Darius III, was inevitable. They met in 331 BC at the Battle of Gaugamela in modern-day Iraq. The Persian army was immense, with some estimates putting it at over 200,000 soldiers, including scythe, chariots, and war elephants. Alexander was outnumbered at least 5-1. Knowing he couldn't win a head-on fight, Alexander employed a tactical masterpiece. He advanced with his line at an angle, drawing the Persian cavalry on the left flank out wide to try and envelop him. This deliberately created a gap in the center of the Persian line. That was the moment Alexander had been waiting for. He led his elite companion cavalry in a decisive wedge-shaped charge directly at the gap, aiming straight for Darius himself. Panicked, Darius fled the battlefield. Seeing their king run, the Persian army's morale collapsed, and the battle turned into a rout. The Achaemenid Persian Empire, which had dominated the world for 2 centuries, was effectively finished. Alexander marched into the legendary city of Babylon, hailed as the new king of Asia. But he didn't stop there. His ambition, and perhaps his curiosity, was boundless. He pushed further east, into lands no Greek had ever seen, through the treacherous Hindu Kush mountains, and into modern-day Afghanistan and Pakistan. This was the most grueling part of his campaign. The terrain was brutal, and he faced fierce guerrilla resistance from local warlords. Yet, he adapted his tactics, founding military colonies to secure the region and even marrying Roxana, the daughter of a local Bactrian chieftain, in a strategic alliance. His final major battle took place in India in 326 BC at the Hydaspes River against King Porus and his army of war elephants. Elephants were the ancient world's tanks, terrifying and seemingly unstoppable. But again, Alexander's tactical genius shone through. He used his more mobile cavalry to outflank Porus's army, causing chaos and turning the elephants into a liability as they panicked and trampled their own soldiers. Despite winning the battle, Alexander was so impressed by Porus's bravery that he allowed him to keep his kingdom, making him an ally. By this point, Alexander wanted to push on to the Ganges River, to what he believed was the edge of the world. But his army, exhausted after 8 years of constant marching and fighting thousands of miles from home, finally refused. They had had enough. For the first time, Alexander had to relent. He agreed to turn back. The journey home was as perilous as any battle. One part of his army sailed down the coast, while Alexander led the rest through the brutal Gedrosian desert, a decision that cost the lives of thousands of his veterans from thirst and exhaustion. He returned to Babylon in 323 BC, not just as a conqueror, but as the ruler of a massive multicultural empire. He began planning for the future, organizing the administration of his new territories, and promoting a policy of fusion between Greek and Persian cultures. He encouraged his soldiers to marry Persian women, and held a mass wedding ceremony to symbolize this union. He wanted to create a new, blended Hellenistic civilization, but his grand vision would never be fully realized. In June of 323 BC, after a prolonged bout of fever, possibly from malaria, typhoid, or perhaps even poison, Alexander the Great died in Babylon. He was only 32 years old. His final words, when asked to whom he left his vast empire, were supposedly, "To the strongest." This cryptic answer sparked a 50-year power struggle among his top generals, known as the Wars of the Diadochi. His empire was shattered into several Hellenistic kingdoms, such as the Ptolemaic kingdom in Egypt and the Seleucid Empire in Asia. Though his empire didn't survive him intact, Alexander's legacy is immeasurable. His conquests shattered the old world order and spread Greek language, culture, and ideas, a process we now call Hellenization, from Greece all the way to India. This cultural fusion laid the groundwork for the Roman Empire, and shaped the development of Western civilization for centuries to come. He was a brilliant military commander, a visionary leader, and a man driven by an insatiable desire for glory and discovery. In just 13 short years, he didn't just conquer the world, he changed it forever. What do you find most fascinating about Alexander's story? His military tactics, his vision for a blended culture, or his sheer relentless ambition? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey through history, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more epic stories. See you next time.